Hey everyone, this is Nadia from Verify Pipeline Authoring team, and I apologize for the reggae music in the background, but I'm working from a cafe. Today I'm going to share with you some of the insights that we've uncovered during the solution validation research study for the pipeline visualization or the pipeline graph. So initially we wanted to focus specifically on the job dependencies view in the pipeline graph, but we ended up getting a lot of feedback around the pipeline graph in general and around the whole use case of optimizing your pipeline or the workflow of optimizing your pipeline. So first things first, just some details. What we did was we interviewed 5 GitLab users around their experience with the pipeline graph and their needs around pipeline visualization. And we recruited them from a feedback issue where they provided their feedback asynchronously already. So we just followed up with them to ask some additional questions. So first off, we uncovered some new jobs to be done related to pipeline optimization. So the first one is when optimizing the pipeline for my team, I want to identify the existing and missing dependencies so I can shorten the critical path for the pipeline. And these jobs to be done, they're just drafts. So I understand that the wording might be a bit off, but we will be working on them further before we add them to our handbook page. Another job to be done is when a job in the pipeline fails, I want to view all of its related jobs to quickly identify the root cause of the failed job. So these 2 jobs to be done, I see them as like 2 main use cases for the job dependencies view of the pipeline graph, basically. So the first is using it to optimize your pipeline architecture because you can see all of the different job dependencies. And another one is just as a developer running a merge request pipeline, you might want to investigate why a job failed. And by viewing the dependencies highlight, you can see which jobs are related to that failed job, like what led to this job failure. So you could kind of narrow down and look at only the jobs that are related to the job that failed. Another one related to pipeline optimization is when viewing a running pipeline, I want to see how long a job took or how long a job needs to wait to start so I can identify bottlenecks and optimize the pipeline critical path. So this has to do with perhaps surfacing these additional insights somehow to these users to make it easier for them to optimize their pipeline critical path. And all as a whole, I think every user probably mentioned the pipeline critical path as important to them as part of their pipeline optimization workflow. Another job to be done has to do with collaboration. I want to share the pipeline run insights with my team, collaborate on pipeline optimization or debugging. So that has to do with an actionable insight actually that we have to make the job dependencies view linkable. So we want to be able to share the job dependencies view so you can just copy the link and share with someone from your team and take you directly to the job dependencies view. I'm just gonna cover the most interesting insights. You can also dive deeper into them in the research issue where all of the insights are listed with their actionable issues. But one interesting insight is that users wanted to be able to test the pipeline in different contexts to test and optimize the pipeline for realistic scenarios. So the job dependencies view, the graph, it's a graph for a running pipeline, which allows you to see the graph of a real pipeline that runs based on certain conditions. So let's say you run a pipeline based on some rules, or maybe it's a merge request pipeline, or it's a scheduled pipeline, or we have all kinds of different pipelines. Users who are optimizing pipelines, they would like to be able to do that before they actually run the pipeline. So they would like to be able to set certain conditions on their pipeline configuration and say, hey, show me a pipeline graph that will be the accurate pipeline graph when this pipeline runs for this specific branch, or when this pipeline runs based on certain rules or certain file changes and things like that. So Another interesting insight was that engineers who don't use stages in their pipeline definition don't find the stage view useful because it no longer represents the accurate pipeline architecture. Um, Similarly, it seems like the needs tab graph, like the older DAG visualizations we have, it no longer provides additional benefit compared to the job dependencies view because we're solving the same problem in the job dependency view on the pipeline graph. So now it seems like this older graph is a bit redundant. So I create an actionable issue to consider deprecating that view altogether and focusing on the job dependencies view instead. Um, yeah, the insights confirmed that users would like to see the dependencies in the graph by default. So we should explore ways to show those dependencies without having to toggle in that view. Generally, we should start exploring how can we surface more information around pipeline efficiency, whether in the pipeline graph or the pipeline editor graph. So that's another kind of related idea. It's not an actionable insight, but I still highlighted here is that we also have the pipeline editor visualization, which is a graph that is generated just based on your config and not the final resulting running pipeline. And right now, we see that users rely on the running pipeline graph to optimize their pipeline configuration. But if we were able to surface more insights and a more accurate pipeline visualization in the pipeline editor, it would be even more helpful because then you can get those insights without running the pipeline, which of course would have to involve us creating some kind of mechanism to test your pipeline in different contexts. So it gets really complex, but still there's something that we should start looking at. And yeah, another important one was that jobs that have implicit dependencies should show up in correct order in the graph. Right now, they just show up in the first column, which was confusing for many of the users. And related to that, we want to show implicit dependencies. Yeah, so it's this insight right here. We want to show implicit dependencies between jobs that are based on stages and not only based on needs, because when you're optimizing your pipeline, you want to see all of your dependencies and you want to be able to differentiate between them. So you can say, decide to replace a stage-based dependency with a needs-based dependency if it's more efficient for you, or maybe the other way around. However, we need to be careful here because at the same time, we don't want to overload just a developer running a merge request pipeline with this information because they just want to see the dependencies and they don't really care about whether it's implicit or explicit and how it's set up in the config. Yeah, so these are the main themes. There are some other insights here that I haven't covered, but feel free to dive deeper into them and check out the actionable issues that I've created to see what we're going to do with these insights and how we're going to use them to improve the experience for optimizing your pipeline and generally visualizing the pipeline run and helping you with debugging the jobs that are failing. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.